Let's take a closer look at the main view in Interface Builder. To inspect the main view in Interface Builder, so that we can examine how the user interface works behind the scenes, select mainview.xib. The main view appears in the Interface Builder on the right, in the editor area. To see the inspector pane, if you haven't already opened it, click this button. As you can see, it disappears. Click it again. That's the utility area. In the utility area are the inspector panes, such as the Attributes Inspector and the Identity Inspector. Well, we have to select something first in the Interface Builder for an inspector to appear. So let's click the View icon in the dock, and you can see that we have the Attributes Inspector. Let's look at the Identity Inspector, which is this button here. Or you can choose View, Utilities, Identity Inspector. Let's scroll the Identity Inspector pane to see more of the accessibility controls. Under the Traits subheading, in the Accessibility section, you can see that user interaction for the main view has been enabled, right down here. Scrolling back up to the Custom Class section and selecting the View icon again, we see that the view belongs to the UI View class. UI View is an abstract superclass that provides concrete subclasses with a structure for drawing and handling events. The UI View class provides the common methods that you use to create all types of views and access their properties. Let's go back to the Attributes Inspector now that we have View selected, and we can take a look at the view's attributes. You see that it includes a gray status bar and a very dark background, not quite black. And of course, you can change any of these characteristics. We want to make it dark green, dark blue, and so on. But let's undo that change. Now, to get info about the class that uses or owns this view, we click Files Owner in the top of the dock, and then click the Identity Inspector button at the top of the inspector pane, or of course, choose View, Utilities, Identity Inspector. In the Class pop-up menu, you can see that the file's owner, which is the object that is going to use or own this file, is set to the class Main View Controller. You can click the circled arrow here next to Main View Controller to go right to the code in mainviewcontroller.h and see the @interface directive for the class in the mainviewcontroller.h file. So you know that this nib file, mainview.xib, is linked directly to the Main View Controller. Of course, the utility app template set this all up for you without you having to lift a finger. To see how it's all set up, let's go and look at the code in myworldappdelegate.h. Now you will recall that delegation is a design pattern used extensively in the UIKit and AppKit framework to customize the behavior of an object without having to subclass it. One object, in this case a framework object, delegates the task of implementing one of its methods to another object. To implement a delegated method, you put the code for your app-specific behavior in a separate delegate object. And when a request is made of the delegator, the delegate's method that implements the app-specific behavior is invoked by the delegator. The methods that a class delegates are defined in a protocol, and thus we look inside the delegate object myworldappdelegate to see this. The interface compiler directive sets up myworldappdelegate to use the UI application delegate protocol. All well and good, but how do we get the interface builder stuff to work? Well, the next step is to declare an accessor method here for window and tag it with an IB outlet. IB outlet is there so that interface builder can discover it and use it. So we've declared an accessor method for window, which is a UI window class, and one for main view controller, which is of the main view controller class, which is a subclass of UI view controller. So in these two @property directives, we have set up with IB outlet tags the accessor methods. And now in myworldappdelegate.m, we find the synthesized directives that use window and main view controller. The synthesized statements tell the compiler to create accessor methods for you, one for each property declaration. We had one for window and we have one for main view controller. And that's how the interface builder can be owned by this particular object main view controller. So after the delegate receives notification that the app has launched, and that happens in the application did finish launching with options method, Here's where you have an opportunity to customize the view. In fact, the override point is commented out for you to show you where to do it. And this is where we will be adding stuff for My World app. After that, there's a self.window.rootViewController becomes the main view controller. This assigns main view controller to the root view controller property to install the view controller's view as the content view of the window. Finally, the statement here calls make key end visible. This makes the receiver the key window and makes that window visible. It also makes it the first responder for events or touches. Since this method returns a Boolean either yes or no, the return is yes, if of course it's successful. So the gist of the application did finish launching with options method is that it tells the delegate when the application has launched. At the time this method is called, your app is in the inactive state. But with the return value of yes, the app can move to the active or foreground state. Now the question is, how does this code make use of that information button on the main view? So let's go to mainViewController.h and take a look. Here we have, of course, the interface directive mainViewController, which owns the nib file for the main view. This interface directive also tells you that mainViewController is a subclass of UIViewController. And of course, the UIViewController class provides the fundamental view management model for iOS apps. And you use each instance of UIViewController to manage a full screen view. Now, because the amount of available screen space is limited, user interfaces must be divided into one or more screens worth of information. The views used to present each distinct screen are then managed by one of your UIViewController subclasses, in this case by mainViewController, which is a UIViewController subclass. So if the user taps the Info button on the main view, the corresponding action method responds to the button interaction. And in this case, the action method is right here, IBAction show info. Of course, id is a unique identifier for this view, corresponds to the layer's identifier, and the sender parameter contains the object that sent the action and can also be used to help process the action. Soon we will be adding code to this mainViewController.h file and also to mainViewController.m to control the main view. And we'll be looking here at the IBAction show info method.